their law firm, they're going to change the key things that are relevant to you. They're going to send it to you, and it'll be a rock solid document. And that's the way you save money with a high-priced lawyer who doesn't take a lot of time. The last thing I'll say about lawyers is I encourage you to shop your lawyers every 2 years. So make them re-interview for their job every 2 years. And you may decide to split up the work even. One area that's not uncommon for people to split out their work in my world is intellectual property. So if you have patents and trademarks and copyrights and that kind of thing, you may have one law firm for your patent work, a different law firm for your corporate work. And I encourage you to re-interview and re-shop them every 2 years. So carrying on from legal stuff, if you're a legal corporation in the state of New York, and this is probably actually true for most states, you need to have board meetings. This is if you're an actual legal corporation. So a board meeting, the legal minimum to be a corporation is you have a board meeting at least once a year. We advise more than that, but once a year is the typical minimum. And here's what happens if you have a board of directors. You want to send out your materials at least 2 days in advance. So you're going to have a deck about here's what we're going to talk about, strategy, new hires, major decisions, whatever it is. You're going to send that out ahead of time. You're also going to send out your financial statements. That'll be easy because now you'll be on QuickBooks and it'll generate your key financial statements. And for those of you, I'm not going to go too much in accounting, but just know that there's 3 main accounting statements that every business has. It's the statement of cash flow, their balance sheet, and their income statement. Often also called your P&L, your profit and loss statement. So there's 3 statements that go out in your financials, plus the information packet to the board of directors. Send that out 2 days in advance. It's very good discipline to have this kind of board meetings. Yes, sir.
Actually believe by state law that it's 7 days in New York, that you have to show a record of mailing 7 days in advance or get a waiver from all shareholders.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that. That's good to know. In this day and age, I typically send everything electronically, so they get it in real time. So it's legally 7 days, and you might be able to even change that in your charter, but that's good to know. So one of the things that you're going to do, you're going to have your board meeting minutes, which the management will speak to, the notes, but your formal board meeting minutes that you will sign and file in your corporate document book are very simple. They're shockingly simple. You really want to stick to the facts. So you're going to talk about, we had a meeting at this date, this time, this location, here's who attended. Also include people who attend telephonically. So it's perfectly acceptable for board members to call in using telephone or Skype or things like this. Just record who was there and who was on the call. And you're going to really only, in your board meeting minutes, you're only going to put the topics that you talked about. So you'll say, the board of directors talked about strategy, new hires, financing, the state of the building, whatever it may be. None of the details that you talk about, just the topics. And then you'll close with the meeting concluded at whatever time. And then if you do have any major decisions that should be recorded in your board minutes, major decisions, it's sort of intuitive. If you're going to spend a lot of money, if you're going to take out any significant debt, if there's going to be any major hires, really the board of directors' primary job is to hire and fire the CEO. The CEO's job is to handle the rest of it. So staffing decisions are really only made at the board level for the CEO, sometimes the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. And the last piece I'll say about board meetings is it's normal to have your attorney on the call. It's very normal to have them, you don't have to pay them to come in, but have them on the call. And just as a rule of thumb, typically they do not charge to be on board calls. So they're there to listen if there's any legal things that need to be touched on. But I've never paid one of my lawyers to actually be on a board of directors call. So that surprises people. So even if you have these high-priced lawyers, and usually they're in their office, they got the speakerphone on, they may or may not be paying 100% close attention, but you can call their name and say, hey Tony, do we need to get this signed or whatever, and they'll perk up. It is an expectation that they would be on those board calls. All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. One of the tactics that I talk to a lot of people about is logos. So folks like to make logos for their company. I will just tell you there's a website I just love called Logo Tournament. Anybody heard of Logo Tournament? So check out Logo Tournament. And I'll tell you how Logo Tournament works and I'll tell you why I like it. So you commit to spending a certain amount of money for a logo. we'll say $350 because I think that's their minimum. And then Logo Tournament, the website, actually walks you through this whole tutorial about colors you like, messages you want to send, how the logo is going to be used, whether it's going to be embroidered, whether it's going to be an icon, this, that, and the other. And it walks you through this whole thing about logos that you want to be influenced. They'll also ask you, what are some logos that you've seen in the past that you like, as a reference point. And once you go through this whole tutorial, then they put that notice out to designers, and they're designers around the world. This is their full-time job. It's just designing logos for Logo Tournament. And the way it works is they tell the designers, somebody's going to get this $350. And it's up to you as the person to review. Typically it's 7 days. Designers will start submitting designs right away. And as they submit them, you go through and say, I like this, I don't like that, I like this to be changed, I want these colors. And the more you comment, it will continue to iterate on these logo designs. And I think Logo Tournament even guarantees you'll have at least 50 designs. The people who I've seen get the most value out of this is the ones who regularly comment on the designs that have been done. And when I've done this myself and with others, it's not uncommon to get 350 different submissions for logo designs. Now, they're not 350 completely different. They're typically iterations or changes, and they'll incorporate things with other folks. But you get some really nice, slick designs out of Logo Tournament. The other thing you can do is, many of these designers will put their portfolios out there. Like, here's designs I've done in the past. And I found a good way to get them to pay attention to your tournament is to email them and say, hey, I like the work you did on this particular design. Will you take a look at my award and submit something? So logotournament.com is a really useful site for making really slick logos. So while we're on the topic of websites, one of the things that's happened now is there's a lot of companies making really high quality, easy to use websites. So there's 4 in particular that I reference on the slides here. So it's Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, and Weebly. And so what these companies have in common is they provide to you a very high quality, subject matter relevant websites that have a tremendous amount of functionality in them. And one of the first pieces of functionality they designed is all their websites are designed for all the different platforms. So you can put content in there once, it'll reformat it for the phone, for the tablet, for the desktop, and it'll look really slick. And they also provide all the other functionality, such as email addresses. You can get a unique domain name, all of the things. And by the way, they do all the hosting. It's all up on the cloud. So you just pay them a few dollars per month, and it's completely worth it. You get the design, you get the hosting, you get the website, the email forwarding. And if you can make a PowerPoint presentation, you can design these websites. It's so incredibly easy. They, I'm trying to remember what you see is what you get. WYSIWYG, right? So their stuff is WYSIWYG. It's drag and drop. So if you've never looked at HTML code, you don't have to. You can drag and drop and upload pictures, and they'll put cool effects on the pictures and make them backgrounds. And it's incredible how powerful these sites are. So if you're thinking about launching a site, put it up on the web, use those templates. It'll save you a ton of money. You have a really slick website. I've seen people set up really slick websites in an hour. They're up and running and work great on every platform.
And the templates are usually $20 to $80.
And they'll provide some for free. And by the way, you can actually change templates, and all your content will transfer over, so you don't have to reload it.
Any preferences for an e-commerce site with these 4?
A lot of them have the stuff built in. I've seen people use Squarespace the most for they're actually doing selling. And then I think Squarespace and WordPress also allows third-party plugins.
Okay.
So you can use BigCommerce and plug that into the back end. Yeah, they're pretty slick. These full-service hosting, really high-quality stuff. All right, so another tactic I get a lot of questions about is PR, public relations. I find PR to be the most effective way for new companies to spend their advertising dollars. So really high level, PR, public relations, is getting the press or press type entities to write about you. So one tool that I use quite readily is PRWeb. So PRWeb.com, you can put out a press release, you pay them $150, they give you this format for what that press release looks like. One of the things I tell people, proofread that very carefully. because nobody else is going to. But when you put that out press release and pay them $150, one of the things that they're doing is it's going to go out through all their channels. And so it'll make the article get found. So if your business is launching a new product, maybe you have a grand opening, whatever it may be, spending $150 on PR web is well worth it. It'll get out into the search engines. It'll show up as news. Besides proofreading and editing your PR, your press release, keep in mind that this service requires about a 3-day advance notice. I mean, one of the outlets they send it out through is fax machines. I don't know why, there's still people who have fax machines. So if you have an event that's coming up, give yourself at least 3 days to have that press release submitted through their system, but it's well worth it. As you grow and decide you want to hire a PR firm, PR firms can be worth it. They start between $5,000 and $10,000 per month. So your company's going to be at a pretty good pace. They consider a $5,000 a month commitment to be pretty low. But what a PR firm will help you do is navigate all of the press junkets, the press outreach, those type of things. I find them to be quite useful, particularly in the fact that the PR, the public relations world, is changing so much with a digital age. Where I've seen people be most effective with the PR, just like with the lawyers, is be very clear on what your goals and objectives are. So if one of your goals and objectives is to get your story on Entertainment Tonight, to tell them that and work towards that end. And when they achieve that goal, give them an award above and beyond the norm. I had a PR firm in San Francisco, and we were one of their smaller clients, and we'd given some pretty clear direction on what we wanted to have done. And one of them was, I wanted an article about us in one of the major news outlets. And so when they got some coverage by our company in Time Magazine, back when Time Magazine still printed, and they still, I sent a dozen roses to the office. So one of their smallest clients became one of their most visible. And so what the team wanted to make sure they did is they got more roses. So every time they walked in and out of the office, they walked right by those roses, and the team that got those roses got to tell everybody else in the office, yeah, that little software company, we got them in Time Magazine, and they would even joke about it. It's like, okay, what do we have to do to get the next roses? So as you're working with your PR team, say, okay, what is it that you guys need to do to get your roses? And they really liked it. And it was a co-ed team. We just picked roses, in part because not only do you see them, but you smell them, but they were in a big office building, and we knew that the bathrooms were outside the office. So everybody in the office had to walk by the reception to go to the bathroom. So we knew that they were going to be reminded of those roses multiple times a day. And this is where this slide might have been helpful, but I get a lot of questions about online advertising tactics. So I want to give you a couple terms you may or may not have heard. So the first one is CPM. Lee, don't worry about it. I'll be fine. CPM is cost per thousand. So you may say, Brad, why is it an M? It's a Roman numeral for 1,000. So CPM is a cost per impression. So this is the most common, or the original way in which ads were done on the internet, which is for every 1,000 times I show your ad, you're going to pay this much money. And those used to be much higher. It used to be in the neighborhood of $25 to $30 per 1,000. It's now like $2. So that price has come down. But CPM is cost per 1,000. CPC is cost per click. So that's what you pay when somebody actually clicks on your advertisement. This is largely how Google makes their money. There's a CPA, which is cost per action. So this is, you think about this moving through the value cycle. So CPM is I showed the ad. CPC is I clicked on the ad. CPA, cost per action, is after I went through your ad, what action did I do? Well, one very common one is you may pay for somebody to sign up for a mailing list. So even though it's a cashless transaction between you and your potential customer, it's having a valid email address is valuable to you. You may pay for that. Another advertising term is affiliate. So there's some people who get paid get paid a portion of what you actually buy. So I just mentioned CPA, that's cost per action. Affiliate marketing is when there's actually a cash transaction. The person who, or the advertiser who sent you there, will get a piece of that. So this is the way Amazon actually makes a lot of their, gets a lot of their traffic. If you click on an advertisement from somebody that sends you to Amazon, there's a good chance they're going to get 5% of whatever you buy on Amazon. And so Amazon doesn't jack up the price 5%, but they give that advertising fee to that advertiser. So that's what an affiliate marketer does. There's another term you may see a lot, CTR, click-through rate. That's just what it sounds like. Of the people who saw the ad, how many clicked on it. And if you don't know, Google will stop showing your ads. So if you're running ads on Google, if you don't get enough people to click through, if your click-through rate is less than 1%, Google will pull your ad. And people find this very surprising, but it means that your ad is not contextually relevant to where you're advertising. So you want to have your click-through rate. And on that note, if you're doing advertising on Google and then you search terms and don't see your ads, that's Google intentionally not doing it. They're not going to show you your own ads because it'll actually bring your click-through rate down. And the last lingo term I'll mention here is SEO, stands for search engine optimization. This is where people design their website so that the search engines find the content correctly. One of the advantages of going one of these sites like a Wix or a Weebly or those guys is their systems are already website search engine optimized. Now there's a difference between search engine optimization and search engine gaming. And by gaming, I mean there's companies out there who will try all sorts of tricks and stunts to try to up your count of your search engine. And what that means is your website will show up naturally higher up on the Google ranking. So most people, when they're searching for things, they don't even scroll, and rarely do they even click through to the second page. So if you just say to me, "Oh, my website shows up on the third page of a Google search," it might as well not exist. So that's why people spend time and money on search engine optimization. So then the follow-on to that is, well, which sites am I going to advertise on, and why? And so I'll go through a couple of them. So the first one, the most traditional, is news sources. So think the New York Times, CNN. Anything on Yahoo, or even some of the reference sites like Yelp. They make most of their money on CPM, so cost per impression, and they're showing ads related to context. And what that means is they're going to show ads that are relevant to what you're looking at. So if you're reading about, let's say, car reviews, you're going to see ads about cars. So they're doing contextual advertising. That's how a lot of those sites work. That's different than the way Facebook figures out what pages it's going to show you. So Facebook is going to show you ads based on who you are. And so who you are, you've expressed your interest, things you clicked on in the past, where you're located, what your friends are looking at and clicking on. So it's really based on who you are. They're collecting a lot of information about you, oftentimes provided by you, and they will show you ads that are relevant. So for example, I list one of my interests is kayaking. I see lots of ads for kayaking stuff. I went to school at North Carolina State for undergrad. I see a lot of things for North Carolina State gear that comes up on my Facebook. They're advertising based on who I am versus what I'm looking at. Whereas Google is really the modern equivalent to the Yellow Pages. So Google is showing you ads based on what you're searching for. And they're just like on the Yellow Pages, sometimes you're going to specifically search for things and look for the ads. This is one of the reasons actually Google highlights what the ads are. There's sometimes people looking at things and say, hey, I want to know who is the advertiser. So for those of you in the room who remember the Yellow Pages would list all the people in a category, but if you paid for an ad, you would get a much bigger, and they would charge by the size of the ad in the Yellow Pages. It was very common that what people would do is say you were going to look for a tire dealership. You may be more attracted to the person or the company that actually bought the Yellow Pages ad, because that can be interesting to you. So Google is showing ads based on what you're looking for, and typically Google gets paid based on an action, which is you clicking on that ad. That brings me to Twitter and Pinterest. So Twitter and Pinterest are going to show ads based on what other people are posting. And so by extension, it's what you have demonstrated you're interested in. So if you follow, my wife and I do triathlon, I follow a couple of professional triathletes on Twitter. Twitter will show me ads for sneakers and bicycles and things like that. So same with Pinterest, it's going to show you ads based on the subject matters that you're looking at, and based on the profiles of people you follow. So it's slightly different than than the contextual advertising, because it's looking at the profiles of the people you follow versus the content that they're necessarily posting. And last but not least is I do want to mention